Thanks everyone again for joining us today. This is the Pennsylvania Troche and Syrup subcategory webinar. Today, Seth Dewberry, our VP of Product, is going to be presenting to you the subcategory updates that are headed your way. Some important dates I want to give to you before we get started, or the important date, I guess, is April 2nd. That will be the mandatory date of transition of existing products to the Troche and Syrup subcategories. Seth is going to detail for you today how to do that transition, as well as some easy ways to perform mass modifications that should make your life easier. We'll also provide you some suggestions on how to prep for that to make those mass modifications simpler as we go. During this presentation, if you have any questions, there is a Q&A box that should be on the right side of your screen, I believe. But if you look for a button that says Q&A, you can drop any questions you have in there. We will do our best to answer them all publicly and reread them for everyone to hear. Generally, if one person has a question, so do many. If it's appropriate, we'll answer it in text in the Q&A board as well. So please feel free to contribute there any way you like, and we'll answer those questions towards the end of the presentation. When the presentation is done, you can have any follow-up questions that may arise. You can send them to am@mjfreeway.com. That's the easiest one to remember. And then I'll give you my personal email later as well. That is robin.petty@mjfreeway.com. You're welcome to reach out to me directly as well. With that said, I'll hand over the presentation to Seth to go over the upcoming changes and how to best prepare for them.
Thanks, Robin. Let me share across here. All right. Okay, so in the front end here, really there's the main, as Robin said, the main goal is going to be to get everything from your products into these new categories. So there's nothing to do on this category, subcategory management page, but what you will see and how you can confirm that there's the changes out is that these two new subcategories will just show up. And that's when we turn on one of our toggles. And so they show up for everybody. Now, the main thing is going to be getting items into, we'll take troches, for example, since there's a lot of troches in PA. And we'll look at just moving the troches in, and that can be done on a one-off item per item modification, but it certainly does not have to be. So from the item page, of course, you can go in and modify at any time, edit, and then save. And this might be useful if there's just like one or two danglers after doing the mass updates. But in the end, what we're going to do is use the mass modify. And the mass modify basically requires that you select several things from the front end here. Keeping in mind, of course, you can, select out of order stuff, and you can also shift select. But checking the mass modify, probably the most relevant way for our current people to approach this is going to be to search, like text search on a product name. And so like Troche is probably in the name of a lot of the products. But if I search on that, I can then click multiple things, and then I've got my mass modify. And you'll see when you go into mass modify, there will be a confirmation of the items from the previous listing page that have been selected. And then those things, certain attributes can be updated. So in this case, we're going to just be updating to the item subcategory and tossing everything into troches and then saving at the bottom. And that will be the meat of it. There might need to be a few different searches if you have things named differently, but in the end, we just want to make sure that all of the troche stuff gets into the troche categories, and any syrups get into the syrup categories. And some people are familiar with this mass modification page. Now, the main goal here is, of course, to get, it's a new subcategory, but it's really to get everything into this new subcategory at the same time, more or less like on the same window. And those are kind of going into the dates that Robin has for us. But the idea is once we get everything updated into Troches, the reporting will shift now and we'll be able to get full statewide reporting on sales out of the Troches category, you know, across all clients and everything, as these Troches are very popular. And so from the reporting standpoint, that is why we're scheduling this so tightly and we want to try to get it all done in a specific time period. So for instance, you'll be able to mass modify stuff. You can't do it right now because the Troches categories aren't there. But when we toggle on, excuse me, when we toggle on the Troches category, you'll be able to mass modify and there'll just be a short period of time to get everything mass modified into Troches. What that does is gets us really set up well for, you know, the reporting cutoff and the new reporting date so that we know everything from a certain date, you know, was changed and now everything's going to be reporting in the Troches category. This is for things like things that relate back to the item master themselves that report on the current state of the item master. And so the idea is then if, you know, anybody needs any help on mass modifying things, and if there's any scenario where we have too many products and there's no common thread to search them all, then that's for sure to reach out to us and reach out with any concerns, and we'll figure out how to help with the data update. But otherwise, we're just trying to get this all done on a specific time so we have a really clear line in the sand of when everything got moved into Troches categories and when our, you know, Troche reporting represents the reporting of all Troches in the state instead of just like some of them. And so that's why we're really trying to timestamp this system update. And that's pretty much it from my end, Robin. Do we have any questions that have come in?
Sure. So first, just to let everyone know, now is the time to look to the right side of your screen and click that Q&A button and add any questions you may have. Just want to provide a little bit of clarification on a couple of the things Seth said up front. When he's talking about putting together the statewide reporting, that's an effort we have with going on with the Commonwealth right now. We do provide reporting up to BMM, et cetera, on products. So that's what that was referring to there. And just a reminder, again, the date that these changes will be happening is April 2nd. Wednesday, April 2nd is the critical date. Keep an eye on your in-chat or in-app chat widget, as well as your emails for reminders on that. Seth, we do have a couple questions already. The first one is, when changing the subcategory, does it still delete the purchasing information? Or will you have historical access to your purchasing information in analytics?
Wow, that's more oh, for the reporting aspect. There will still be, okay. So the way that we're reporting on item category and subcategory for purchases, of course, like if I purchase something on, let's say last year, June 1st, my Troche may have been in the edibles category, right? So if I report on June 1st of last year, I see that I sold a Troche and it was in the edibles category. Now, when we do this update and everything gets updated to the Troches categories, then if I now run a report after that happens for last year, June 1st, my reporting is going to show that this sold from the Troches category, because the reporting looks at real time what the product category is. It doesn't save the state of what the product category was on June 1st. Now, of course, everything with the sale, the money, all that information is hard coded because that lives on the transaction. But each time that the reporting looks back at subcategories, it looks at what the current subcategory of the product master is. So this is one of the main reasons for getting it all switched at the same time, because things will start reporting in Troches historically as soon as we change them to Troches. And we want that to happen all at the same time. And so for anybody that wants to know, for instance, differences for some reason on what these sales were when they were in the edibles categories versus the Troches categories, then on the day of the switch, we'd want to export reporting some of you have snapshot inventory reports that would show things, but we'd want to export anything. That's probably not the case. It's really the case at the states level that they want the Troche, statewide reporting and things to be in the Troche category. And just having the subcategory as an attribute of the item master, which can change. And the system always looks at the current item master whenever it's reporting on historical sales or current sales of that item master.
Right. And then there's a couple more that I think I can answer up front, followed by some I'll read out to you, Seth. The first one is, what is going on with the infused edibles category changing to lingual? I can answer that one. That was included in the email in error. We've since sent out a correction there. That category name will not be changing. That was a historic discussion with the Commonwealth, and that information was left in that email in error. So that should be corrected. The infused edible category name will not be changing. Only the subcategories of troche and syrup will be added. And then the next one is, I see this is recorded. Can the recording be sent to those on this call to share with others on the store team? Absolutely. When this is done, we'll be coordinating with our marketing team to get this video posted somewhere publicly, and we'll make sure that that link and or a copy of the video is sent to everyone in attendance to share with their teams. Here's some additional questions that have come in, Seth. Good one here. Will partners experience mapping issues on Wednesday or Thursday, since there will be a time when our subcategories don't match? And if that's the case, do we need to plan for transfers of these types of products on different days?
It would probably be the safest to plan for them on different days if we can. And if there are any issues, we can certainly help with Sub3 to data fix them. That's one scenario that I'm not sure on.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah. So we'll send out an email communication with this. Appreciate the question there. So our guidance is going to be, if you have troche or syrup shipments to be planned, we would advise on planning those around the date of April 2nd. They should work April 1st as well as April 3rd. Should work April 2nd as well, but in the event you experience any issues, please submit a support ticket. And we do have engineering resources that will help you get that sorted out. We'll have folks on standby ready to address those issues. On the retail side, do we adjust all products or just our brands?
All all troches, period.
That's right. So anything listed in another category in your systems, whichever organizations you control, should all be changed to a troche or syrup subcategory. Okay. Next question. I can handle this one. Is there any plan to add infused flower under concentrate similar to Keef as an option in the future? There's not a firm plan at this point, but I will say that this discussion regarding troche and syrup subcategories has started some additional conversations with the Commonwealth. We are looking at potentially aligning the subcategories offered in Pennsylvania a bit more closely to products we are actually seeing in the market. Likely not in the very near future, but there is a potential that there are some changes to subcategories out later this year or farther out that do provide, some more clear buckets to put those types of products in. Again, there's no firm plans for that, so don't take that to the bank right now, but we are having those discussions, and I'll be happy to raise it to the Commonwealth if that was brought up in this meeting. Next question for Seth. Can we edit products that are inactive? We have a few SKUs we're no longer making currently that we have inactivated, but potentially could come back into production one day.
Well, there is actually, yes. So when you go into inactive, there's an edit button and a mass modify also. So you'll be able to do the same thing from inactive.
Okay. The next question, Seth, when you change a subcategory on a single product master, it erases the unit of measure option. Will doing this via mass modify not affect that?
I can actually jump in on that one. I was about to answer it for just via text. I went ahead and tested that just now, and I can confirm that the unit of measure is retained when mass modifying products. However, just wanted to call out that if anyone is seeing any issues with that or experiencing any problems, please contact support and we'll be happy to help.
Okay. And another good question here. Will the second session on the 28th contain any new info, or will it be similar to today's? It will be almost a carbon copy of today's. There will be no new information presented. We did just want to provide 2 time slots in case people were unable to attend this one. So if you've attended this one, no need to re-attend. Again, we will get this uploaded as quickly as we can. It may be later this afternoon or tomorrow, but we'll get a video copy of this out to everyone in attendance to share with their teams as well. Here's another good one for Seth or Miles to jump in on. Are there any limits on how many products can be mass modified at one time?
No known limit.
All right. Will adjusting the subcategory for all Troche products at once impact other data fields that are left unchanged? For example, can we be sure that medical net weight will not be impacted?
I can answer that one. When you mass modify at the bottom of the page before confirming, you'll have to hit the preview button, and on that preview page, you'll see any changes that will be made. So confirming all of those changes on the preview page will make sure that your medicated net weight isn't modified.
Okay. Here's another good question. I think we'll get some good additional details out. I'll handle this one. Is there time for the mass modify? Is the time for the mass modify set yet? If so, what time will that occur? So this is something we're going to do on the back end. You do have the ability to mass modify products, but you won't see the new troche and syrup subcategories until April 2nd. So that'll be the date you'll be able to mass modify products into that subcategory. I do want to make note that the way we have this set up, just in full transparency, is on April 2nd, you will see those subcategories and be able to modify or mass modify products into them. We will have a toggle and that will go live in the evening before business on April 2nd. And after close of business on April 2nd, there will be another guardrail put in place that will not allow you to transfer products into those subcategories. So if you have missed any, you will either need to reach out to support for assistance, or you can delete those product masters and recreate new ones. But if you do have challenges, please reach out to us by support. Miles will be working with our team as well, and we may have some options there to help you get those into the subcategory if there are numerous, that would make it inefficient or challenging to delete and rebuild. If it's just 1 or 2, likely the delete and rebuild is your best path there. Okay, next one. Will only changing the subcategory on the products affect the cost or medical price?
Miles, I think that's another one. I mean, the confirmation at the bottom, right? Like it only changes the subcategory will only change the subcategory.
That's correct. And again, if there are any issues like that, support will be happy to help. But yeah, confirming on that preview page is going to be the best way to see what will change.
All right. This is another good tip here from one of our users. Mass modifying large quantity of products can be slow and or challenging to push through. If you're mass modifying a grouping of troches, for instance, make sure you uncheck those troches before you go to mass modify your syrups. That's a great point there. I appreciate that. Okay, here's another question, and maybe I said this incorrectly, so happy to answer this one live. The question is, just to clarify, on April 2nd, we won't be able to start the mass modify until the evening. No, that's not what I intended to say. If I said it like that, I apologize. So on our, on our side, we're going to open up that capability and in the nighttime before April 2nd. So between business hours of April 1st and April 2nd. So when you come into the office on April 2nd, you should be able to start mass modifying those products. We do understand there's quite a few folks that have early hours, especially in the grows. So we'll be doing that likely in the late evening of April 1st or the very early hours of April 2nd. So you should have all day of business hours, April 2nd, to make these changes. All right. That's all we have in our Q&A queue for now. I do want to give another minute or two for people to put any additional questions they may have. If you have any final questions before we wrap up, please put them in that question and answer box now. And if not, and you come up with some questions afterwards, you're welcome to email us. Again, the emails you can use are AM as in Mary at excuse me. Let me put the other slide up before I say this incorrectly. AM as in Mary at mjfreeway.com. Or you can email me directly at robin.petty, that's ROBIN.PETTY at mjfreeway.com. We don't appear to be having any more questions come in right now. So here's one last one. Can you expand on the other products being deactivated after that point at the evening of April 2nd? So we will not deactivate any products in the evening of April 2nd or after business April 2nd. So on April 3rd, when you come in, if you have products that were not transitioned from a pre-existing subcategory into the troche or syrup subcategory that should have been transitioned there, you will no longer be able to move them from an existing subcategory to those subcategories. There will be guardrails in place in the system preventing that at the instruction of BMM. So what you would need to do at that point is to reach out to our support team who can help you with those transitions. If there are many of them, we may have some options to help you at your facility get that done. If there's one or two, it will likely be a quicker solution for your team to delete those product masters from the old category or old subcategory and just create new ones. But if you're unable to do that for any reason, please reach out to our support team and we'll see what we can do to help you there. Another question, how does MJ know they were supposed to be moved there? At MJ Freeway, we don't really have any interest in how you categorize your products. Again, this is based on your compliance requirements with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth asks that any products that are created in syrup form or troche form are correctly classified in those areas. They have several tools at their disposal to be able to verify that in different ways. We don't participate in any of that. But of course, the Pennsylvania compliance team will have access to all of the Pennsylvania data and they'll expect that everything is correctly categorized. All right, let's see. Next question is, if we are able to edit inactive product subcategories, even if they aren't live, would this help moving forward for making sure new or old existing products can be categorized properly before deliveries and integration?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, because some people will inactivate things that are out of stock for a while. So like, yeah, paying attention to the inactive stuff that might come back into stock, that should also be managed on this process.
Follow-up question. Will making changes to every product library in the state stress or crash MJ Freeway? Well, it will not. One, we have the database resources prepared for this, but also this isn't a change of every product in the state. It's just for those troche and syrup products, which are a small percentage of state products. But yes, we are prepared with database and other technical resources to be able to handle this. All right. One last minute for any additional questions we may have before we wrap up. All right. Well, with that, I appreciate everyone's time today. Big thanks to Seth and Miles for the presentation. And thank you to all in attendance. Again, we will be getting this recording uploaded to a publicly shareable place, and we'll get it out to everyone in attendance to share with your teams as soon as possible. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate your attendance.